taking my piece of art and I'm turning it into a product.
Yeah.
There's a totally different mindset. That's that switch, I think, from A to B. So the humility to receive critique and then the persistence to keep going. And so 43 rejections was no picnic, but then I got two offers in 1 week because I'd
Yeah.
taken it to that point with humility to say, now I really have something.
Super excited to have Camille Maio here today, author, cousin, mentor, someone I've looked at her career at afar, admired, and truly so excited for you to be here. Thank you, Camille.
Thanks for having me. Really excited about all you're doing.
Yes, we're both on exciting times starting in 2025. You have Come Fly With Me coming out weeks away, correct?
Yeah, a couple of weeks away. It's my 8th book and 4 in the works. So yeah, I'm kind of pinching myself.
Amazing. That's amazing. And I want to get into Come Fly With Me. One of the things I really want to do with the podcast and something that really interests me is entrepreneurs, their journeys. And, whether that's a business owner, which you've been very successful in business as well, but also your journey. When did writing start for you? Because I knew you were in arts and very, various creative things growing up, but writing in particular, when did that journey start for you?
I was always a really good reader, which I think is fundamental to being a good writer. But the desire to write was when I was about 12, and I was very bullied at school. And I spent recesses in the school library and just tore through like everything that they had. And I found that authors, by writing the books, really created this escapism for me. And I think that sort of triggered reading. Being, to me, I love reading as escapism. And so that created the desire, and more reading created the ability, I think. And I didn't really pursue it until I was in my mid-30s because I had 4 kids and a business by that time. And I thought, oh, that's something to do someday. And then I discovered an author who'd made it really big and said she wrote her series at swim team practice, and something clicked and said, oh, we do swim team practice. I could do this. And I started to pour myself into it. And but that was where the desire started. And I came to realize that you don't need to wait till your kids are out of the house to pursue the next dream, because they got this front row seat to see resilience, rejection, perseverance, triumph, all the things. They benefit, I believe, from that front row seat.
That's fantastic. I love it. And that's, one thing that you've always been a mentor to me is, I think people have a plan, but we all know that plan's never going to work out that way. Life gets in the way, and we have different things, but you kept with it from the beginning. And once you decided to do it, like we were talking about before, there's step A, there's writing the book, and then there's step B. So step A, what is that process for you? Is I'm sure it's changed over 12 projects now and more to come, from the beginning to now, just more of your writing process. We can talk about step B later, but I'm curious what your process is as a writer.
Well, there's kind of 2 types of writers that I've learned over time. There's the plotters and the pantsers. And the plotters are probably what you're going to imagine most writers to be. I have friends who have like little Post-it notes out and they're color coordinated and they know exactly where their story is going. I am very extremely on the opposite of that. I'm extremely a pantser, which is writing by the seat of my pants. So for me, I write historical fiction. So it often is sparked by either somewhere I've traveled or a historical fact that I've learned that just sort of embeds itself. And most of my ideas have been percolating for several years before I even attempt to do anything with it. I sort of, if it's still with me several years later and I still find it interesting, then I think maybe my readers will find it interesting. And it's floated above other ideas. And then I start to get more serious about addressing that idea and that concept. And I just start going. I tell my husband that my head is like, my brain is like a colander. So I take in information, and anything I don't need pours right back out, and anything I do need stays in. So I
Oh
think that works
man.
with being a pantser,
Yeah.
because I don't read 50 books about my subject before diving in. I start diving in, and then as I need information, like, oh, what would a telephone have looked like in
Yeah.
1938?
Yeah.
I don't pre-do that stuff. So I just, yeah, that's my process. I just go with it.
I love it. I love it. Well, it works and it's amazing. And I was going to ask you, so I know growing up, you guys did a bit of traveling, a good amount of traveling, and your parents influenced you in that way. And, all of your books have themes of travel and incredible settings, especially Come Fly With Me. And is that obviously is inspired by your travel? Is there any places that stick out to you that, man, really inspired a book or a special time that inspired some awesome writing for you?
Yeah, one of my favorites that I had, the best times I had writing, was The Beautiful Strangers, and it's set at the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego,
Mhm.
and it's just a remarkable old historic hotel. It's where Some Like It Hot was filmed with Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon. So
Yeah.
I'd been there several times, and my husband and I were walking along the beach one time. He said, "You love this place. You should write a book." So that one was
I love
definitely
that.
very related. My fifth book, The First Emma, is inspired by our mutual hometown of San Antonio. There's this magnificent brewery there that has been turned into what Condé Nast called one of the world's best new hotels when it opened, called Hotel Emma. And I was curious,
Mhm.
who's this Emma? So that book, she was so interesting, kind of ties into Handy Brew. She was married to a beer magnate back in the early 1900s, and um, he had two mistresses also named Emma, one of whom murdered him, and so it became crime of the century, and this woman takes over this business in 1914. So yeah, that was another situation where a specific place and time inspired
Wow.
that.
That's
um,
amazing. That's so cool. And I love that, San Antonio, man, I need to go home. That's a great place. I love
yeah,
it. And in thinking of it, it's like you've been all over the world, and the fact that that was a setting for that's pretty cool to me. So let's say you get the book done and you're happy with it. And, I know there's, a big long process, right, of
mhm,
that. And this is, related to like people to me that are reaching out, are close to getting something that they want done, have a great idea, are exploring that. um the second part B, as we were
part B.
calling it.
Yeah.
Part B, as we're calling it. I'm sure that took you some time, but what's your process? What was it like when you started, and what is it like now? And because obviously, doing Handy Brew, it's a big part of everything.
Yeah.
It's you create, but then there's the other part of it. So yeah, just your thoughts on that. Any advice for our fellow entrepreneurs trying to make it out there?
Yeah. Well, I like to say the two most valuable traits of a writer, and I think this is true for an entrepreneur as well, are persistence and humility. So in my case, as a writer, once you have a manuscript, if you want to take it into traditional publishing, which has many advantages to do that, but it's slim, you have to get an agent. And the agent rejection rate, to be honest, is 98%. It's brutal.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it does open the door. It's not a guarantee, but it opens the door very widely, because they are the gatekeepers really to the
Yeah.
publishing world. So in my case, it took me about 4 years. I believed, I wrote my manuscript, and I thought, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get a book deal, I'm going to get a movie deal, and this is just how it works. And then 4 years of rejection told me that's not quite how it works.
Hmm.
So that's where perseverance and humility came in. So I believed I had something good, but in getting what ended up being 43 rejections, which is very average for writers, you had to take a look at your work and say, what is not working here? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the humility comes in. You need to take these critiques, and you can't just stand and say, this is my art. You have to take it or leave it. They're going to leave it at
Right.
that point. So you have to have that humility to say that, and to transition into thinking, I am now taking my piece of art and I'm turning it into a product.
Yep.
There's a totally different mindset. That's that switch, I think, from A to B. So the humility to receive critique, and then the persistence to keep going. And so 43 rejections was no picnic, but then I
Mm-hmm.
got two offers in 1 week, because I'd
Yeah.
taken it to that point with humility to say, now I really have something. And now I look back
Wow.
on that first draft that I thought would get a movie deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody will ever that will not see the light of day. It's so
Right.
awful.
Right. Oh
So
my
yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
I think that important thing is that switch. It's your art or it's your creative idea, but then it's a product, and you have to switch your mindset big time if you want it to achieve a commercial
Right.
place.
And like you said, when you switch that mindset, persistence and humility. I'll add for myself those two things. I'm going to take those every day. I like that advice. And then for me, patience too is a big one for me.
Yeah.
I get
Oh,
ahead of myself
definitely.
pretty quickly. I'm real excited about the journey that
Mhm.
and the inspiration behind the writing of this one.
Yeah, this one is really special to me. I'm probably more excited about it than anything I have done. I think it probably stems again from a family love of travel, but we also have a lot of aviators in our family. As you know,
That's
our,
right.
our grandfather was in the Air Force as a pilot, and we have several hobby pilots, including my dad, an aunt, and uncle who've all been hobby pilots. So as much as I honestly don't love to fly, it just gets me to where I need to go. We do have
Yeah.
a lot of passionate aviators in our family. We used to call ourselves airport bums. We just go sit out by the runway and just watch airplanes. So that
Yeah.
is a love that has been in my mind, kind of combined with travel. And the idea probably stemmed 15 years ago, before I even wrote my first book. I
Oh,
was at Book
really? Wow.
People. Yeah,
So
this
you
one
have
has
these,
germinated for a long
do you
time.
have these, Camille? Are these written down or are they just in your head? Because I have to, oh man, I know. I have a capacity, okay, and then
Mhm.
after that, I have to log ideas because I'll forget them or I'll think about them 10 years later. That's wild. That's incredible.
Well,
Anyway,
there were reasons I couldn't write this one as early as I had the idea. The idea, like just even the spark of the idea, despite just having a lifelong love of aviation, was seeing this book called Jet Set at Book People in Austin one time, like on the bargain table. And the funny thing is, I bought the book. I've still never actually read the book because I'm so much more of a fiction reader than a nonfiction reader. And it was
uh-huh,
nonfiction.
yeah,
But just having that book sit on my shelf for many years just kept making me love this glamorous jet set era. I love Frank Sinatra, and it just kind of kept staring
yeah,
me in the face. But I think to write a book of this scope, so it's about Pan Am stewardesses in the 1960s, and Pan Am is about to celebrate its 100th anniversary, and it was all over the world. So the scope of this airline is massive. And
yeah,
as a brand new writer, I didn't really have the chops yet to write something of this magnitude. So that's why this is the right time. And when I reached out to the Pan Am community, which at its heyday was second to Coca-Cola in recognizability. So it was a big
wow,
deal.
yeah,
The Pan Am stewardesses, who are the thousands of them who are still alive today, are a very tight-knit group who value their legacy tremendously. So I think I had to even approach them with a bit of a resume. So,
yeah,
seven books in at the time gave me the credibility to say, hey, I treat my historical
yeah,
subjects with respect and care. They
mm,
vetted me, they read my books, and I couldn't have done that, I think, at the very
wow.
beginning. So once they let me in, now they call me family. I am
This,
invited to all the stuff. I've been their keynote.
I love it.
Like, I'm in. And that's
See,
why this
but
book is
part B,
special. So
sorry to interrupt you, but part
mhm,
B, that goes back to part B, you saying,
yeah.
this book, it wasn't the right time. And then knowing when, now
Mhm.
through experience and also um, networking contacts, you've have success with your books. Now it's the right time. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
didn't want to
No, it
interrupt
makes
you.
sense. And that's where your word patience comes in. I hadn't
Hmm.
put that in there specifically, but yeah, this is
Yeah,
now that I think of it, this is my longest idea that is an idea has ever sat with me. I needed to travel more. This is an incredibly international book, and I needed to see more of the world to write it. Much of it takes place in the Pacific, which I've now been to Hawaii and Tahiti and
Yeah.
places that this book takes place. So I needed more life experience. I needed more career experience, and but this is the one. A lot of my early readers have been telling me this is their favorite of mine. So I'm hoping
Oh,
the
that's so
widespread readers think
fantastic.
so too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm excited for it. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, truly, Camille, for joining us and our for Handy Brew and our fun little podcast here. And honestly, it's been a true pleasure. I've learned a lot, as I always do every time I speak to you. And yeah, come fly with me. I can't wait. And what is the official release date?
Comes out February 18.
February
Yeah.
18th.
February 18th.
Awesome.
Lands February 18th.
Lance. Oh, that's so good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
like the how do you handy brew thing, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so I love what you're doing. I'll, there's a quote. I want to say it's maybe Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not sure, but my husband brought this quote up to me one time that the C students often end up working for the A students. And this is, this, I did work hard in school and everything, but I think that creative side took in. And so for all of you entrepreneurs out there, as somebody who was bullied in school myself, I just wanted to encourage this A students work for for the C students later on. And so your creative ideas and your tenacity are so much more important than how much schooling you have. The school of hard knocks, I think, is the best education. And so just encouragement to go
Wow.
for it.
Well, we share in that school. Yes, I think we have a lot of similarities in that. And wow, inspiring words. And thank you so much, Camille. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, can't wait for Come Fly with Me. And thank you again.
All right. Thanks for having me.